Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Suthar. Hey everyone, oh my goodness, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast, and I have an epic guest for you. Listen, I've been trying to get her on here for over a year now, right? And we're finally doing it. And the reason why I want her on here is because she talks about something really important that we all need to know about business, and that's how to hire teams. Yeah, so this is going to be a juicy one. Get ready, guys. Please welcome Lisa to the stage. Lisa, I'm so excited for you to be here.
Thanks, Kay. I'm so glad that we persevered, and I'm so glad that we could finally make this happen. I'm delighted to be on the podcast at last.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. So there's so many questions already. We already had a short conversation behind the scenes, back of the camera, about building teams and all of that. But before we get into all the juicy bits, I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about your background, right? Like, how did you manage to build a business like you have done, teaching people about teams? There must have been some ups and downs on your journey, because we all know it doesn't happen with a click of a finger, right?
No, it does not happen with a click of the finger. Definitely not. Yes, it's been. If I look back at the journey that brought me here, and here is indeed working with team leads to shape teams into teams that perform. You know, whatever that means for the team lead. It could be growing. It could be adapting because you're facing disruption. It could be hiring a new team because you're a founder and you want to grow and you need people to help you. So whatever success means for you as a team lead, I help you to do that. And the way that I help you is by using the principles of neurodivergent-friendly. And I think that's what makes this journey so interesting, and maybe my approach a little bit different for people. So I got interested in neurodivergence inclusion in the way that most people do in this area, because my son was diagnosed a few years ago with autism. He's autistic with learning difficulties, so it's a little bit of a different variant of autism than some other people might be familiar with. But yeah, he's autistic. So once you kind of I'm a person who once you get over things and you like, okay, I accept it. This is as it is. What do we do? I think, well, let's try and make something of it. Right? It's no point sitting feeling sorry for yourself in my world. So I just started to learn about autism, and I learned about it in the perspective of obviously everything that I've done before in my life. So I'm a scientist at heart. I tried very hard to be a Nobel Prize winning scientific researcher, but I'm not very good at research. But I am very good at science.
Okay.
Right, so I started to dive into the evidence, the research evidence, and the business evidence eventually about how you can incorporate this into your team building. I've done a lot of thought leadership as well. I've done that in my past as well. So I brought in that aspect, so I wasn't just taking what I was reading at face value. I was thinking about it in terms of what I've seen, what I've experienced, in terms of other things that I'm reading to bring in a different spin. And a common thread also of my career to date, which I don't think we'll go into because we'll be here all day. But my career to date is that I've done a lot of change making in various guises. So how can you, how do you get organizations, or how do you get teams to change? And also to sustain that change? That's a trick, of course, right? So it's about motivating people to change, giving people quick wins in the beginning, giving them the energy to persevere when things get tough. Of course, there's a whole science behind that. But I also brought in that change making element into what I was learning about neurodivergence inclusion. So that was how I started to look at stuff. While I was doing that, my day job was chief of staff of a marketing group. And as chief of staff, I was looking at team health. It was not a very nice place to work when I joined, and my job was to make it nice and functional, and people not want to just leave and go somewhere else. That we actually enjoy working here, and we like to do good work. So it's ideal opportunity to mess around actually, and apply what I was learning at home in a work context, and the ideas that I was getting from all of this reading and all of this evidence-based research I was doing, apply that in the workplace. So I started to do
Mhm.
that and just mess around, and it sounds very irresponsible, but it wasn't. It was completely in line with what I was supposed to be doing, um, and what I expected, because it was based on helping my son, and like 1 or 1.5% of people in the world are supposed to be autistic, was that I'd
Ah,
help a handful of autistic people. I thought
okay.
maybe 2 or 3 people in the group would say, thanks, this is really helpful, and I would feel good, and that would be that. And what actually
Wow.
happened was that it helped everybody. And
Ah,
the scale of the benefit was just something I was completely unprepared for. It helped people like personally to engage, to work with people who have different styles from them. And it helped with their performance, the team performance as well. So, having seen that, I got more and more into it. I was obviously encouraged and motivated to get more and more into it, and keep on shaping like my own frameworks and my own theories and testing them out and that sort of thing. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I've stumbled across something incredible here. I have to keep going. I love this. It's amazing. And so when my position was made redundant a couple of years ago, again, I think it's something that happens to a lot of people who start off as entrepreneurs. It was like, Lisa, do you want to apply for another position? Like, nope, I will take the money, thank you. I'm going to take the chance to do this because I won't be able to live with myself for the rest of my life if I don't try to communicate what I've discovered by accident to more people. So that's how I got into it.
wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, I already got so many questions here for you. So you kind of just stumbled into this by accident, going in with one vision and really kind of identifying that there's so much more to this, right? Which is amazing. First of all, how
Yeah.
long have you been on the search or been doing this since you started as to what you actually discovered from all of this?
Let's see, my 4 years. 4 years
Okay.
is about a little bit more since my son got his diagnosis of autism. And so the couple of years before that, before we actually got somebody to say, yes, it's autism, we were trying to work out what on earth was going on, what was explaining all these challenges that he was having. So I was diving into
Oh,
just a lot of stuff on my own, trying to work out what it was. It was, he wasn't talking. So it's like, is there like a language delay? And what can we do to help him with that? Is it high sensitivity? Is it so we're looking at all these different things. So I'd already started to get interested in it, but yeah, literally from the, it's autism. Now you know what you're looking at. Now you've got a definite point. Go and do this. That's 4 years ago. But yeah, the stuff that I'm basing everything on obviously is much longer than 4 years. When I'm
mhm.
52, and I
Oh my
started.
goodness. Wait, you would wait, whoa,
Thanks.
whoa, 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 whoa. You would never have known that. Right, we
Well,
need to
thank
get this
you.
on speaker. Like, we need to know what potions and lotions you're using,
Oh,
because
it's the Zoom
oh my
filter,
goodness.
Kay. So thanks.
Oh,
But so all of the stuff that I talked about, right? The thought leadership and the research background, the evidence base, the scientific approach, all of that I've been doing my whole life. Yeah, I mean, how long is a piece of
wow.
string really is the answer to your question, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so all right. So when you, oh my God, I've got so many questions bubbling in my head now, and
Go
I'm like,
ahead.
I want to ask them all for you. So when you kind of got into the first team, right, when you went in there with one vision and you realized a whole bunch of other things, and you said that, you want to go from having a team that's happy, that wants to go into work, that loves
Yeah.
their position, loves their all of that. What were some of the things that you identified that were missing that you implemented that made huge, massive differences to teams?
All right, I'll let me talk about a couple of things that we start with. I mean, there's obviously like a whole process. I won't go through the whole lot. But the very first thing that made a difference was actually just bringing some awareness to the fact that there is neurodivergence in our corporate organization.
Okay.
And I was somebody who decided to talk about it. That's also my style. I don't like to hide my problems. I'm like, okay, I have a problem. It's gonna stay here forever. So I don't mean my son is a problem. What I mean is I had a problem in adapting my working style to be able to care for
Right.
him as a disabled child who needs extra support. So I had a problem that obviously wasn't going to disappear. And
Right.
I thought, I can either try and disguise it and just keep going, or I can use my senior VP position and big networks. I've been in the company for a long time. I can use it to try to do some good, right, to help other people who might be in the same situation. So I started talking about it. It was extremely scary. I remember the first time I did it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
It
this
was,
was a few years ago when
yeah,
people weren't talking about it or weren't
no,
aware of it. So that is scary for you to
yeah.
be the first person to talk about when people don't not understanding what it is.
No, indeed. So
Oh,
people don't understand, and what I found is that they come with a lot of questions, which is also something I just didn't know what I was getting into, honestly. It was quite I
right.
felt like I'm going to do this for me. This is how I want
Yeah.
to this is how I want to be in this situation which life has handed us. This is how I want to go about it. I want to go about it openly. I want to be proud of it. I want to try and do something good with it. And so that's what I was doing. But it's also, it's also a very personal situation, and it was a few months old. It was still quite new.
Right.
So you're trying to talk about something factually and helpfully, which can be quite emotional still. I mean, I've got much more used to it now. But
Right.
at the time, I remember it was very, very difficult. And you're also not sure how people were going to react, because it wasn't something that
Yeah.
was being, as you say, it wasn't something that was being talked about. So I thought, am I just going to be shouting into a vacuum? Are people going to react negatively? I really didn't know. But
Yeah.
um, but what I found was the best community I've ever found in my life. So the
Mhm.
number of people who connected with me, either saying, I am autistic or otherwise neurodivergent, ADHD or dyslexia or whatever, and thank you for saying something, because now I feel like
Mm.
else, the company
Yeah.
is seeing us. I was talking on behalf of myself, not the company, but anyway, that was how they saw it. And many more people say, I'm also the mother of a neurodivergent kid or an otherwise disabled kid, or based on what you're describing, I think maybe my brother or my sister or my neighbor's kid or my cousin or whoever, is autistic, and that helps to explain a lot of things. And so all of these people started connecting. It was much, much, much bigger than I expected, and definitely much more than like the 1 or 1.5% of people who are supposed to be autistic. It was just bonkers. So that was the first thing, right? Just building a focal point that people could connect to and building awareness seemed to, well, it did help a lot. I know people have told me afterwards. And it surprised me, as I say, because I didn't know what I was getting into. It surprised me how
Yeah.
much. And then also one of the earliest things that we worked on was communication style. So an autistic person. Let's talk about an autistic person in the workplace now, not my son, but an autistic person will tend to understand things very, very literally.
Okay. All right.
And they will not find it very easy to respond to body language, gestures, facial expressions, to incorporate those into what they're hearing. So one consequence of that is that if you want your communication to be clear to an autistic person, you just need to be very literal. Say exactly
Okay.
what you mean. Try not to use metaphors or nice expressions and that sort of thing. Just be very literal and very definite. And then it's much more understandable. So we started to do that, and then obviously one of the impacts is that when you start to communicate like that in the workplace, everybody benefits, because you remove a lot of the need for interpretation or a lot of the assumptions that people have to apply to understand what you think you're saying, but they might not always understand. And you also remove a lot of the differences in interpretation that you may have from people, different nationalities, backgrounds, different experiences. Yeah, it's extremely difficult to do it, because we don't learn to talk like that. It's a
Yeah.
very hard thing. It sounds easy, but it's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But it does make a big difference. And there's lots and lots of things that you can do as well. But I think that would give you a good idea to start with.
Absolutely. And so because you do have an autistic child, I guess you have found ways on how to be able to communicate that within teams, because otherwise generally you wouldn't know how to adapt your language, your body language and things like that, which is where you come in and actually teach I guess teams on how to do this. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of I mean, this
Okay.
the mode of communication, the method of communication is one of the first things to to start with. It's really a good foundation for everything else that you're going to build up after that, which is, how does your team agree how to behave in a particular situation, or how can you adapt your processes? Maybe you've got an innovation process, maybe you've got a hiring process, like you said at the beginning, maybe you've got an onboarding process. So that's all the processes and team normal kind of team occurrences that you do. You can make adaptations to be more inclusive of people who are neurodivergent, but those changes also help everybody. And that was what I found. That was what explains the size of the impact that I was seeing when I talked about that example at the beginning.
Okay, I love that. So, okay, I guess once you are aware, right, that this needs to be implemented in business of all shapes and sizes, right? Because it does, whether it's small, whether it's big corporations, it needs to be implemented. I guess what kind of things have you noticed, right, that happens in the workplace really commonly, right, that people don't realize that they're doing or anything like that, that you feel needs to be changed, right, to make it a lot more dynamic, make it a lot more open, more freer for teams to actually love where they're working?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that can be changed is the idea that there's more than one way to get to a destination. So like the very traditional way of leadership management, which I think is old school, but actually is still quite common these days. I wish it was old school, but it's not. Is to say, I'm the leader. This is how we're going to do it. Go and do it. You kind of expect people to just follow on from what you're saying without inputting their own knowledge or their own ideas or their own styles, really. There's a more modern way of leading, which is not to do that, which is to say, this is what we want to achieve. Here's a vision, here's a destination, here's a goal, whatever you want to call it, and not to be specific about how people get there. So you tell people what we need to do and by when, and all of that sort of thing. You set a clear framework, but you don't specify how. And in not specifying how, you allow people to be themselves. So you can imagine, like, if we look at neurodivergent people, so autistic people have got a particular set of skills that they tend to bring. Not every autistic person is exactly the same. Not every autistic person has exactly the same skills, but there's a tendency of skills that go with autistic people. People with ADHD also tend to have a particular set of skills. Same with dyslexics. If you extend that to everybody, everybody's got a particular set of skills that they bring and a particular style that they want to bring it in, right? So, some people might love listening to podcasts, and some people don't really like podcasts and they like to read articles. That's just a style. That's a preference in how you consume information, and we all have those preferences. If we can work in terms of those preferences and bring our expertise to the vision that we're trying to achieve, then we do much better work. We help our colleagues much better, and we do it in a much healthier way. Our mental health is much better. We enjoy it much more. We get much more energy from it. It's not such an effort. So if I talk about it like that, right, when you've got control over how you deliver a vision or a goal that your leader has given you, you can see like why the performance is so much better, and why the engagement in a team becomes so much better, and the wellness and the mental health becomes so much better. So that's one thing that would change, that I wish that would change, that leaders say clearly what needs to happen, but not how. Usually it doesn't matter how. There's more than one way to get to the vision. Yeah.
Absolutely. See,
sometimes it matters how, but not usually. Not usually.
Okay. So I love the fact that you said, you gotta kind of be aware of people consuming information in different ways, which is exactly what I said with regards to podcasting, where a lot of people do audio. I was like, no, do video, have the audio, and then write a blog about it, and let your audience decide if they want to watch it, listen, or read it. Right?
Exactly. That's a brilliant example of a neuro-inclusive or a neuro-inspired, I would say, practice, which helps everybody. right?
So
So,
I'm on the right track then.
yes, absolutely. People just have different ways that they like to digest information and communicate
Yeah.
information and use information. That's basically it. And if you can accommodate those different ways, be aware that they're there and try to accommodate them in whatever you're doing, then you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And of course,
Oh, I love
when you do it for a team level or an organizational level, you need to incorporate it with change management best practices and all this kind of thing. But essentially, that's it. You got it. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
it. I mean,
Oh.
a person who's dyslexic probably doesn't want to read a long article.
Mm.
Um, they might prefer to listen, and they
Yeah.
usually got a very, very good, strong visual memory and way of conjuring up an image from what they're listening. An autistic person probably prefers to go a bit more slowly and more considered and read.
Mm.
And I'm talking about dyslexic and autistic people. Of course, not everybody's dyslexic or autistic, but they're just good examples. They're good extreme
Yeah.
examples of preferences that 100% of us have. So yeah, great
Absolutely.
example. Great example.
Good. I love that. All right. So once people have become aware of it, and can see the changes that happen, right? What is the next step to actually keep maintaining that? Because I can see a lot of organizations as they grow, they probably slip back into the old habits. And have you seen that happen?
Yeah, oh, definitely, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, we've probably all been there, right? When
Mhm.
our department or our unit or our team lead or whatever, they give us a nice training to kind of build a team feeling, and maybe it's
Right.
some kind of social thing or a sport thing, or maybe it's a workshop to build a particular skill. And you kind of put your team in this situation for a couple of days, and everybody then comes out of the situation feeling good and goes back to work and nothing has changed. And if you're really unlucky, maybe it even gets worse, because if you're trying to focus on
Oh.
building a skill that people want, if it's like a workshop that you've sent people on,
Mhm.
they've gone to this workshop and they've got all excited and built a particular level of trust that this is going to be embedded into their teamwork from now on. Um,
Right.
and if people just go back and do what they did before, that's really disappointing. You can actually feel worse, having seen what's possible, but then you come back and it's not there. You can actually feel worse, and make
Mhm.
people feel less engaged than they were before because of it.
Yeah.
It's a real um, it is a real commitment to put the change management practices in place to embed these changes for the long term. It can definitely be done, and there's ways to do it, but it's not something you can do in a couple of days. And
Okay.
it probably is something that you need a change management expert to help you with. Some companies have
Mm.
those in their organizations, and can help.
Yeah.
Most companies don't. And I'd say for something like this, where it is obviously often feeling quite personal and sometimes quite emotional, it's quite handy to have an external person come in who's more objective and can take some of the
Yeah.
heat off people and brings that change management expertise. Yeah, and I am such a person. But yeah, sometimes people have got.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, just to make it easier, I will just hire you because you know it all, and the fact that
Yeah,
because you
me.
are external, you have a different perspective, right? You probably can
Yeah.
see things that people can't
Yes.
that are already in business. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's so much easier and makes more sense to just hire you, bring you along, so you
Yeah.
can actually identify where the gaps are.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe. It's a neutral. Well, let's not say it. I, I'm a neutral person. I take
Yeah.
great care to be a safe place. If people tell me stuff in confidence, that I don't betray that trust. It's in
Mhm.
confidence, and if I need to um, use it to illustrate, I make sure that it's not traceable back to anybody. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so people are able to share more than maybe they feel safe sharing to somebody in their organization. All right, even if it's somebody who is a change management expert or who says that they are going to keep things confidential. It's different when you've got somebody external, somebody that you don't know, somebody that you know is going to go away in 18 months or a couple of years. Um, yeah, and I'm also extra capacity. That's also obviously usually a big problem for people. People don't have half a week or a full week just sitting around available to um, implement the change processes as well as the neuro-inspired processes to put this stuff in place. So you need to buy in some extra capacity as well.
For
Um,
sure.
Yeah, as well as
Now,
the expertise. So yeah, I'm with you. Good reasons to hire me in. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so I know there's probably people thinking in the audience, like, how big does your business have to be before you start implementing all of this?
As small as one person. I mean,
Yeah, there
if
you go.
you're one person who has decided that you want to grow, if you're an entrepreneur, you
Yeah,
found your organization and you've decided that you want to grow, for example, that's a great time to start looking at this. It's the easiest time to implement this stuff because you don't have any legacy,
yeah,
you don't have anything really to change. You're just setting up from scratch. Well, you do have something to change, which might be a mindset, but it's the smallest thing to change that you can possibly have in this situation. So yeah, one person who wants to start hiring, who wants to start building a team so that you can grow and adapt, free up your own time, to be able to do something else instead of just all the operational stuff that has got too much for you. Otherwise, I don't suppose you'd be hiring. That's the smallest team, and then the biggest, whatever. Yeah, there's not
yeah,
really a limit on
for
size. I
sure.
wouldn't
Yeah,
suggest starting with the whole organization. I'd just suggest starting with a pilot, right, and just see how it goes, um, and gradually scale out. But
yeah.
yeah, there you go.
And so I'm
From
assuming
one
that you
to whatever.
fantastic. So I'm assuming that you can work with like solopreneurs, you can work with small teams,
Yeah,
corporates. Am I right in thinking that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely right. Yeah.
So I can hear people already saying in the audience, all right, how the hell do I get hold of Lisa? Because I need to make sure that I've got everything implemented in my business and get her to identify gaps. So where can they go to learn more about you and also decide if they want to work with you? What would the process look like?
Yeah, the easiest place is to go and look at my LinkedIn profile. I am very active on LinkedIn, so you'll get an impression of the kind of stuff that I talk about. You'll get an impression of yeah what I what I sound like when I'm talking about things, and maybe what I'm like to work with.
Okay.
If you want to listen to more of my podcasts on my own podcast channel, and you can connect with me there easily, obviously as well. If you are interested already in thinking about what does this look like for my team, you can book a free consultation with me, and we'll get into what are you experiencing, what might the root causes be, and what would my services, my Neuro-Inspired team services, have to offer you. What benefits could it bring, and then see if we think that would be a good match and go further. But also, if you just want to have some advice on how can I learn a bit more what you're talking about. What would you advise me to read or to listen to? So I produce articles, I produce podcasts. So, whatever way you prefer to consume your information, I can satisfy you. If you're just curious and you want to learn a bit more, you can also ask me and I'll guide you to a helpful resource. So yeah, LinkedIn, I'd say, is the place to go to learn more and connect.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, guys, I will be putting all the links in the show notes, so make sure you go ahead and grab all of those as well. Lisa, thank you so much for coming onto the show. Like, I feel like I can speak to you all day long around all this. It's fantastic.
Most welcome, Kay. Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.